We're reviewing Yoko Ogawa's The Housekeeper and the Professor. Again, I previously had recorded another version of this video, and classic Sochi, I rambled. But this time I hope I'll be coherent and you derive some value from this. The Housekeeper and the Professor follows the story of a mathematician who, no thanks to a motor accident in 1975, now suffers a brain or memory limitation, which doesn't allow him to remember anything more recent or later than 1975 when this accident happened. And because of that, he has something like, I think, an 80 hour memory space. So after 80 hours, he resets. Well, of course, he develops a system for resituating or centering himself after he recovers or after he wakes out. And we also follow the story of or the involvement of the housekeeper in taking care of him. This is a contemporary literary fiction by Yoko Ogawa, and if you are wondering why that name sounds familiar, it's because she is also the author of Memory Police. It wasn't until I started reviewing this book that I drew some similarities in terms of the themes between the housekeeper and the professor and the memory police. In this book, you will encounter, if you haven't read it already, you will encounter some interesting characters. Of course, the obvious one being, of course, the mathematician, the professor, who happens to be some kind of genius. He solves mathematical puzzles for a living. He takes notes of his anything interesting that happens. He draws out insights, interesting tips, trivia related to mathematics or mathematical theories. The next character that you encounter is the housekeeper, who seems to be pretty normal until she encounters the professor or engages with him, and there seems to be some magic in the relationship. It's not sexual, it's more of a platonic relationship, but very wholesome and highly impactful. She also has a son who comes in contact with the mathematician, and of course, initially this wasn't supposed to. Initially this wasn't allowed, but her employer, the mathematician's sister-in-law, and then we have the housekeeper's son who comes into the mathematician's life, and even if he can't remember longer than 80 hours, he kind of fills a gap, playing a role as a father figure to the housekeeper's son. And I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't read it, but I can say that the story is really moving. Having said that, talking about the themes in this book, Yoko Gawa takes on the issues of memory, of family, of human connection. And I found the book to be very interesting, very whimsical in the way that Yoko Ogawa wrote about these characters and wrote this story. Yoko Ogawa takes on the issues of memory and human connection. And I'd just like to take a moment to talk about memory, because it's easy for me to just say memory and then move on to another thing. But in the way that she was able to draw a story around this issue, or draw a story that brings out this issue, she speaks to the way that memory works, which is that the human brain actually processes, or memory is not lateral. We usually have two kinds of memory. We have episodic memory, which deals with context, which deals with emotions, and that is the part of memory that actually sticks longer. And then we have the semantic memory that deals with symbols and it's meant especially just for knowing or for being aware. And in the way that the story unfolds, you will find that human connection here was more or less a no-brainer, because in order for Yoko Ogawa to show the sensitivity and handle the matter of memory with compassion, the element of human connection really needed to shine through. And we had the character of the housekeeper and her son actually drive these elements in the story. And then for human connection, we had different dynamics playing out in this story, including the relationship between the mathematician, the professor, and his sister-in-law, and also between the housekeeper, her son, and the mathematician. And in all of this, I thought that Yoko Ogawa handled everything really, like handling like in a balanced manner. And even when she writes in a well-paced manner, you begin to think that she was more or less restraining herself from actually veering off into different tangents, different possibilities that this story could have gone. She might as well have spent chapters writing about the mathematical theories. I enjoyed the whimsical manner in which this book was written, and I definitely recommend it to you. And I am looking forward to reading The Memory Police, which I totally skipped, but I will definitely be going back to. If you've read this book, please let me know what you think in the comments. If you haven't, please get a copy and enjoy. And I'll see you in the next one.